Hello, you're tuning into Đồng Nai Radio and Television Station. Coming first with local news. The General Statistics Office has just said that the gross domestic product GDP in the first quarter of 2021 is estimated to increase by 4.48% over the same period last year. This impressive growth occurred despite the complicated progress of the COVID-19 epidemic in the first 3 months of the year. In the general growth rate of the entire Vietnamese economy, the agricultural, forestry and fisheries sectors increased by more than 3% over the same period last year. Industry and construction increased by 6.3%, in which the processing and manufacturing continued to play a driving role in the growth of the economy with an increase of 9.45%. Service sector increased by over 3%, in which market services such as wholesale and retail increased by over 6%. Finance, banking and insurance increased by more than 7%. According to the General Statistics Office, in the first quarter of 2021, export turnover was estimated at more than $77 billion, up 22% over the same period last year. In the first quarter, there were 11 items with an export turnover of over $1 billion, accounting for more than 76% of the total export turnover, of which 4 items had an export turnover of over $5 billion, accounting for 54.7%. In the opposite direction, import turnover is estimated at $75.31 billion, up 26.3% over the same period last year. So, after the first 3 months of the year, the economy saw a trade surplus of $2.03 billion, in which the domestic economic sector saw a trade deficit of $6.75 billion. Foreign invested sector, including crude oil, saw an export surplus of $8.78 billion. According to the State Treasury, it is expected that by the end of March, the whole system of disbursement of investment capital under the 2021 plan will reach over 58,290 billion VND, equaling 13.4% of the plan assigned by the Prime Minister to control spending through the Treasury. Disbursement figures do not include direct funding through the Ministry of Public Security, the Ministry of Defense, projects issued by money orders and interest subsidies through the Development Bank and Policy Bank. Compared to the same period in 2020, disbursement capital increased by more than 200 billion VND in value and 0.5% in percentage. The U.S. on March the 29th announced the suspension of a trade agreement with Myanmar in response to the country's military suspension of protesters over the weekend. U.S. Trade Representative Catherine Tai announced the immediate suspension of all commitments related to the 2013 Framework Agreement on Trade and Investment with Myanmar until the elected government was reinstated in Myanmar. Its military government has not yet commented on this U.S. decision. Earlier on March the 25th, the U.S. Treasury Department put 2 groups controlled by the Myanmar Army on the blacklist, freezing any assets related to these 2 businesses in the U.S. territories. These are 2 groups that bring significant income to the Myanmar military and are also considered 2 groups that control part of the Myanmar economy. In the report of the results of investigating the origin of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, the World Health Organization (WHO) evaluated the virus leak from the laboratory in China as unlikely. Press conference in Geneva, WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said, the report conducted by WHO in China in January this year will be officially released today, but many news agencies say they have a copy of the official report, including the first conclusion that the WHO expert group made. They concluded that the hypothesis that the virus was transmitted to humans through an intermediate host is most likely. Also, the virus leaking out of the lab is extremely unlikely. This conclusion goes against the accusations of many Western politicians and media that China has leaked the virus from the laboratory of the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Basically, the details in the WHO report are not much different from what was leaked in the press weeks ago. That's all for the news today. Thank you for joining us and goodbye.